The recording doesn't start with static. It starts with a scream. Not loud, not panicked, but the kind that comes from someone already accepting the inevitable. The leak hits the world like a dropped match, and within minutes the question spreads faster than any official warning. How can a dead man speak 10 years after his last breath? The transmission is short, only 21 seconds, yet inside it hides a second voice that slips under the human one like a cold hand closing around a throat. If this was just a glitch, why are the people who should explain it suddenly silent? And why does the file's timestamp match a probe that should not even be functioning anymore? The room feels smaller now, as if the walls have drawn closer after the final whisper refuses to fade from memory. No one speaks at first. They just stare at the console like it might explode if touched again. The air carries a heavy humming pressure, the kind that makes the skin crawl, even though the equipment has gone silent. The recording shouldn't even exist. Every document says the source was destroyed years ago. Yet here it is, forcing its way into the present like something that refuses to stay buried. There's a growing sense that this moment marks a point of no return. If the voice truly belongs to someone who shouldn't be able to speak, then the real question isn't how the recording reached them, but why it arrived now. The silence becomes unbearable, so someone finally presses play again, expecting only static. Instead, the file opens with a soft click, followed by a faint rhythm that sounds almost like breathing. Slow, uneven, impossibly close. A chill spreads through the room because the breathing doesn't match any known malfunction. It feels aware, almost intentional, like something on the other side of the transmission is waiting for a reaction. The tension climbs as the group realizes this isn't an echo of the past. It behaves more like a signal reaching out, trying to finish a conversation that never ended. And beneath that realization sits a deeper fear. If the sound is trying to respond, then maybe it can also listen. When the breathing stops, the console displays a timestamp that makes the stomach clench. Is dated a full decade after the recorded speaker was declared dead. The number blinks steadily, almost tauntingly, as though daring anyone to explain it. A wave of disbelief sweeps across the room, followed by something heavier. Fear of what this contradiction implies. Someone mutters that the data must be corrupted, but the system shows no errors. The realization settles slowly. This transmission was created long after the source should have been able to speak. If the recording is genuine, then it means there was a moment, years after the tragedy, when someone or something was still using his voice. The weight of the discovery settles over the room like a low, choking fog. It becomes impossible to deny that the file is deliberate, not accidental. A message rather than a malfunction. Someone suggests shutting everything down, but curiosity keeps hands frozen above the controls. The whisper from earlier begins looping in their thoughts, forming questions none of them want to voice aloud. If the voice was reaching out, then maybe it was signaling distress, or maybe it was signaling something else entirely. The group feels the shift. The moment everything stops being a technical anomaly and becomes an active mystery, one that has just chosen them. The morning arrives without comfort, only the hard realization that the leak is spreading faster than anyone can contain. The group gathers again, each aware that the silence from the outside world is not normal, it's control. Someone has forced a blackout around the transmission, and the absence of any official response feels more dangerous than denial. There's a pressure in the air, the kind that warns of consequences already in motion. Files vanish from servers. Access logs overwrite themselves. It becomes clear that someone on the inside knew the recording would surface, and they are now erasing every trace of its origin. The question gnaws at the group. If the truth is harmless, why is someone burying it this aggressively? An abrupt system alert flashes across the console, demanding authentication codes that none of them triggered. Someone higher in the chain has seized control. The lights dim to emergency levels, and a silent alarm begins pulsing red along the baseboards. The group senses they are being locked out, not just from the file, but from the truth. It feels less like a security measure and more like a warning. A message appears briefly before disappearing. Unauthorized review in progress. The words linger in their minds like a threat. Whoever is pulling the strings is close, watching, and clearly intends to shut everything down before more questions can be asked. They retreat into a side room, trying to rebuild the signal piece by piece from memory. The tension between them sharpens as theories clash. Was the message a distress call, a replay, or something mimicking what it heard? No one can agree, but all sense the same underlying truth. Nothing about the transmission aligns with any known system. Even stranger, the breathing sound maintains its shape when reconstructed, as if the signal has its own structure independent of corruption. It's too deliberate, too intact. A cold realization creeps in. Whatever produced that sound wanted it to be understood. And the more they analyze it, the more it begins to feel like something aware of being listened to. The reconstruction leads to a revelation none of them expect. Hidden beneath the human voice is a pattern repeating at precise intervals, almost like a heartbeat. It isn't random. It follows rules. Someone suggests it could be biological, but the idea is dismissed as impossible. Still, the rhythm refuses to fit into any mechanical category. Anxiety climbs as they realize the pattern wasn't in the original file. It appeared only when tampered with, almost as if the signal reacted to being manipulated. The room grows colder. The sound feels closer, and the terrifying possibility forms. The transmission is not just a recording. It may be responding. The access logs suddenly refresh, revealing one final anomaly. A transmission request was sent from the same coordinates as the original disaster, just days ago. It wasn't strong enough to reach Earth, but it was strong enough to be detected. Someone or something is still signaling, still trying to make contact. A wave of dread rolls through the group as they realize this changes everything. The old recording wasn't a lingering echo. It was a beginning. The silence from the authorities now feels deliberate, almost strategic, as if they already knew the signal would return. And if the source is still active, then the mystery is far from buried. The moment the new coordinates appear, everything shifts. The mystery stops being a relic of a past disaster and becomes a live problem demanding an answer. The group feels a rising pressure, the kind that pushes the mind into imagining what might be calling out from a place that should have been silent for over a decade. The signal behaves strangely, pulsing, waiting, almost pacing in place. It feels neither automated nor accidental, and the idea that it might be aware begins to settle like a heavy stone in the room. No one wants to admit it, but the dread is clear. Whatever sent the message was not destroyed with the original tragedy. Something remained behind, and it may have been waiting for someone to finally hear it again. The team isolates the new detection, pulling apart its layers one sound at a time. Beneath the static lies a pattern shaped like a whisper, but stretched, distorted, and impossibly slow. The more they analyze it, the more it feels like something struggling to form words. The atmosphere grows suffocating as the group realizes they may be listening to the same source that manipulated the earlier record. It's almost as if the signal recognizes their attempts to decode it and is trying to push back through the noise. There's a strange emotion buried within the sound. Fear, urgency, or perhaps something far more dangerous. The sense deepens that this is not a message meant to be ignored. It's a message meant to warn. The whisper sharpens unexpectedly, forming a faint but undeniable shape that resembles a single human word. The moment it emerges, the lights flicker, and the instruments freeze, as though something in the signal has reached out and touched the system. No one can move for a breath. The word repeats, slower, heavier, almost pleading. It becomes clear that the sound isn't random, it's directed toward whoever is listening. The room feels colder as the realization spreads. This isn't a recording at all, it's a response. And the timing is too perfect to be coincidence. Something at the original location is aware of being monitored, and it wants to communicate something urgent before the connection slips away again. The room becomes a battleground of theories. Some argue the voice belongs to the original speaker, trapped in a loop that somehow evolved. Others insist it's an entirely separate source using the familiar tone as camouflage. The tension rises as fear mixes with curiosity, pushing them deeper into the puzzle. The latest whisper seems more refined, more intentional than anything before. Someone notices the signal strength is changing, almost as if the source is moving. That single detail shifts everything. If the signal is changing position, it isn't tethered to debris or ruins. It's active, mobile, alive. And the trajectory suggests it's not drifting randomly. It's moving with purpose. A final breakthrough arrives when they compare the new coordinates to an old mission log. A chilling overlap appears. The signal is moving along the same route the lost crew attempted before going dark. The pattern is unmistakable. Whatever is generating the transmission is retracing the final path of the vanished mission, step by step, as if following a memory. The realization hits hard. This isn't just a message. It's a reenactment. A reconstruction of events that should never have been able to repeat. The room falls silent as the truth settles in. Something out there is not only alive, but trying to show them what happened. And the reason feels urgent, almost desperate. The realization that the signal is retracing the final mission path cracks open a new layer of fear. It means the transmission isn't random. It has memory. Someone comments that memory requires intention, and the room goes still because no one wants to explore what that implies. The silence deepens when an internal alert warns of restricted files disappearing faster than they can be tracked. Someone on the inside clearly wants to erase every trace of what happened before the group can connect more dots. It becomes obvious they are no longer dealing with a simple anomaly, but a full-scale cover-up. And the more they uncover, the clearer it becomes that the truth wasn't just hidden. It was buried under layers of silence designed to keep everyone safe from something far worse. A locked folder suddenly reappears, something the system should be able to do. It contains a mission log, long rumored, but never confirmed. One that contradicts every official report. The group listens as the log describes a moment during the mission when the crew detected movement outside the craft. Not debris, not interference, movement. Human hesitation fills the room as the final lines describe the commander insisting that something was following them at a distance impossible to measure. The log ends abruptly, leaving a void of unanswered questions. The group realizes this is the first real glimpse of what may have happened in the final hours before everything went dark. The group replays the recovered audio tied to the mission log. At first, is only static, rattling, and uneven. But under the distortion is a pattern, familiar, rhythmic, impossible to ignore. The same anomaly heard in the leak transmission appears faintly beneath the crew's voices. The shock is immediate. Whatever is sending signals now was present during the final moments of the lost mission. The implications spiral quickly. This isn't a new anomaly. It's a continuation. A presence that was near the crew long before the disaster and never revealed in the official reports. And now, after years of silence, it's trying to make itself heard again. As they compare every timeline, every audio segment, every trajectory, a disturbing pattern emerges. The anomaly isn't moving randomly. It's closing the distance. Its new path bends slowly, deliberately, shifting in a way that suggests awareness. Someone whispers that maybe it isn't chasing. They stop short, afraid to finish the thought. The idea hangs in the room anyway. Whatever this presence is, it knows where the observers are. The group faces the unsettling possibility that listening to the signal has consequences they never imagined. The deeper they dig, the closer the source seems to come, as if attention itself draws it nearer. The final blow comes when the newest signal spike aligns perfectly with the moment they first accessed the leaked transmission. It's not coincidence. It's reaction. Every action they've taken has triggered a response, as though the unseen source has been waiting for someone to reopen old wounds. A chilling realization settles over the group. Whatever followed the crew all those years ago has been quiet. Not absent, silent, not gone. And now that someone has finally heard it again, it's coming back into motion. The room grows impossibly still. For the first time, the group understands that the mystery didn't return. It never left. The room shifts from confusion to dread when the updated trajectory overlays a second map. One tracking deep space, probes currently active. The source is no longer drifting aimlessly. It's matching the path of an old probe, one that should be dead but recently reactivated, without explanation. The realization hits like a punch. The same entity that shadowed the doomed mission may now be traveling with the returning probe. The thought ignites a cold fear none of them can dismiss. Every new data point hints at intention, almost coordination, as though the anomaly is using the probe as a guide. The group can't shake the feeling that whatever is coming isn't wandering. It's following breadcrumbs back toward the people who heard its voice. And following breadcrumbs back toward the people. The signal grows stronger with each passing minute, almost as if aware it is being tracked. The team reduces the noise floor, expecting static, but what emerges is something far more haunting. A rhythmic sequence that sounds like a pulse, steady and controlled. It feels disturbingly alive. The group exchanges quiet looks, each silently reaching the same conclusion. Whatever this presence is, it is not only active, but adapting. Someone suggests it may be attempting to communicate through repetition. But the idea feels like an invitation to something none of them understand. The pulse grows louder, steadier, and begins to match the timing of their own movements, as if syncing itself to the listeners. The pulse breaks apart without warning, shifting into a pattern that resembles speech, fragmented, distant, and unmistakably intentional. The room freezes as the fragments align into another whisper, this one clearer, sharper, almost urgent. It repeats twice before dissolving into low, trembling static. Something about the tone feels less like communication and more like a plea, a warning delivered across impossible distance. The group listens again and again, each repetition tightening the weight in the room. It becomes impossible to ignore the feeling that the source isn't trying to frighten them. It's trying to reach them before something else does. The urgency in the whisper grows clearer with every analysis. As they isolate the whisper, a horrifying detail emerges. The fragments perfectly match the cadence of a phrase found in the Lost Mission's final, censored log. The meaning becomes clear. The source isn't echoing the old recording. It's continuing it, completing a message that was cut off years earlier. Panic rises as they realize the voice they thought belonged to the doomed mission wasn't a historical artifact. It was only the first half of a sentence. The second half is arriving now, carried by the anomaly closing in on the returning probe. The continuity is impossible, yet undeniable. Something out there remembers exactly where the message stopped and intends to finish what it started. The final analysis sends a chill through the room. The trajectory, signal strength, and timing converge into one conclusion. The anomaly is moving steadily toward Earth. It is not drifting. It is approaching, and whatever intelligence guides it has followed the exact path of the lost mission, step by step, as if retracing its own history. The room grows impossibly quiet as the group understands the gravity of the discovery. This is no longer about solving a mystery. It's about preparing for whatever is coming closer with every passing second. The message from the void wasn't a warning about danger. It was a warning that danger was already on its way. The room feels heavier now, as if the air itself is bracing for what comes next. The signals are no longer faint or distant. They're sharp, focused, and unmistakably directed. Every reading points to one truth. The anomaly is accelerating. Someone whispers that this can't be coincidence, that the timing is too perfect, too deliberate. The sound carries an urgency none of them can ignore, a growing intensity that feels almost like a countdown. The deeper they examine the patterns, the clearer it becomes that the signal isn't just approaching, it's aiming. And the terrifying part is the sense that it knows exactly who is listening. The mystery is no longer abstract, it's personal. The next signal burst shakes the room, not physically but emotionally, because this time it carries structure. It feels organized, almost patterned, and the rhythm echoes something horribly familiar. Someone isolates the pulse and displays its shape on the monitor. The moment it appears, silence falls. The pattern matches a heartbeat. Not random noise, not interference. A heartbeat with a pace that doesn't belong to a machine. The group tries to rationalize it, but there's no denying what they see. The signal isn't just alive. It's stable, controlled, deliberate, and the implication lands like a weight. Whatever survived the mission wasn't a malfunction or fragment. It was something capable of endurance and possibly emotion. When the next whisper emerges, it cuts through the room with chilling clarity. This one isn't distorted or broken, it's sharp, shaped like a word spoken with intent. The group freezes. They play it again. Slower, then faster, but the meaning doesn't change. It's calling for help. The word isn't screamed or panicked. It's spoken with the kind of fear that comes from someone who has been waiting far too long to be heard. The weight of the realization crushes the room's air. This wasn't a monster chasing the lost mission. It was something reaching for survival. Something that tried to communicate but was silenced. And now, after years of darkness, it has finally found listeners again. The group tries to piece together what the word means in the larger context. It doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like a continuation of the unfinished message from years ago. Someone overlays the old logs with the new signal, and the alignment becomes undeniable. The final phrase of the lost mission wasn't a warning to Earth. It was a warning from something the crew encountered. Something that tried to communicate and was misunderstood as a threat. The weight of the truth presses down hard. The fear that gripped the doomed mission wasn't terror. They were trying to protect something, or someone. All at once, the story everyone believed begins to unravel. The tension reaches its peak when the latest signal spike reveals a final detail. One impossible to ignore. The anomaly isn't just approaching Earth. It's adjusting its path as if navigating, responding to obstacles, plotting a deliberate course. It moves with awareness. It moves with purpose. And most terrifying of all, it moves as though searching for the origin of the leak that allowed its voice to be heard again. The group stares at the projected impact window, understanding that everything they've uncovered wasn't accidental. The message wasn't a cry into darkness. It was a direction, a plea for help. And now, the sender is coming to finish what it started. Norti and Zor. The final hours unfold with a tension that presses against every breath. The signal is no longer distant. It resonates through the station like a steady, controlled hum. No one can deny the truth anymore. The source is coming with intent. The message grows clearer, shaped by something that feels less like desperation and more like determination. The atmosphere shifts, charged with the eerie feeling that the unseen presence has been waiting for this moment, longer than any of them can imagine. Every half-finished log, every corrupted file now forms a pattern that can't be ignored. The story wasn't about a lost mission. It was about something the mission discovered, and something that refused to die with it. The group assembles one last time, determined to reconstruct the complete message. Every second counts now. The whisper repeats at steady intervals, clearer than ever, as though the source knows they are listening with full attention. They pull fragments from the old logs, align them with new syllables, and watch the puzzle slowly lock together. The phrase grows longer, more coherent, until it forms something that feels like a warning. but not against the source. Against something else. A threat the doomed mission encountered, but never had the chance to reveal. As the final piece falls into place, the room seems to tighten around them, bracing for what the words will mean for everyone who hears them. When the full message appears, no one speaks. It's not a cry for help. It's a warning. One meant to stop the disaster that unfolded years ago. The truth hits hard. The mission wasn't destroyed by the anomaly. It was trying to protect it. The final whisper isn't begging to be saved. It's begging them to stop something else from reaching it. Something that forced it into silence back then and is now forcing it to flee across the void. The group realizes they've misread the entire story. The anomaly isn't the threat. It's the survivor. And the true danger is the shadow that once hunted the mission and may now be waking again. The room darkens as the final signal spike arrives. It is the strongest yet. Loud, steady, almost emotional. The message repeats in full, its tone urgent but not aggressive. There is no threat, only pleading. Someone realizes the source isn't approaching Earth to attack. It's running, seeking safety. And the only place it can flee is the same planet where its voice was finally heard again. The realization stuns the room. They are not the observers of a cosmic danger. They are the last refuge of something terrified. The approaching presence slows, shifts course slightly, as if afraid of being intercepted. What once seemed like a threat now feels like a cry for sanctuary. Then, without warning, the signal cuts out. Not a fade or a failure. An abrupt silence, sharp and unnatural. The room erupts in panic as the screens flicker, unable to locate the source. Something happened out there. Something close. The meaning hits them all at once. The presence wasn't hiding from Earth. It was hiding behind Earth. And something else just intercepted it. The silence feels suffocating, loaded with unanswered questions. The final realization lands with brutal clarity. The true threat was never the voice that reached them. It was whatever just silenced it. And somewhere in the void, beyond the reach of censors, something has awakened and is listening back.